Hi, it's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. My brother Joseph is visiting from Thailand, and
Hi, everybody.
welcome to another edition of Q&A with the coach's brother.
Okay, and except for am I supposed to explain this or actually, probably because I'm the guy asking all the questions in this. So with this one, I thought that what we would do is I realized that Ramsey like picks his own questions to answer.
This is true.
It's not like his wife is picking his questions, or so he gets lots and lots of questions, maybe like 500 questions every day, and he responds. How many of these videos do you make every week? Like two or three. So there's no way that he can actually answer every question, and even though he responds to a bunch of them, but anyway, the whole point of this is the questions Ramsey answers are handpicked by Ramsey. And so I wanted to ask some harder questions, like questions that
Ooh.
Ramsey wouldn't be prepared for. And then the other thing is, I think it's pretty obvious. Ramsey does a lot of research and probably a lot of research on every question that he answers and asks or asks and answers. Or did I get that right? Well, anyway, Ramsey does a lot of research, both research in general that he draws from when he makes videos, and then also probably like prep work when he makes this. So I thought this would be interesting to just get a totally candid Ramsey with my list of hard questions. So with that lengthy introduction, this is hard questions for Ramsey Dewey.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's go.
Okay, so I'll start out with an easy question, which is, you know how everyone asks you if you have ever done voice acting before?
Yeah.
Okay, and so my question is, have you ever turned down a voice acting position? So just if anyone doesn't know, then Ramsey's done a lot of voice acting.
Yeah, I have actually. Quite a few of
Wait,
them.
you have done voice acting, or you?
I have done voice acting, and I have turned down voice acting jobs.
What? I thought you were excited about voice acting.
Um, Sometimes. Some voice acting is exciting, and some of it is kind of tedious. A lot of people say there's great money in voice acting, and sometimes there is if you have the right job and the right employer, but not all jobs are equally lucrative or worth doing. So, for example, here in China, if you can speak English, there are a lot of people who are willing to hire you as a voice actor regardless of your talent or ability or quality or timbre of voice. So they'll be like, oh, you speak English. What I need you to do is read this entire 300-page textbook, like poorly written textbook, by the way, word for word, without changing a thing, and we will pay you roughly the equivalent of less than minimum wage per hour to do the whole thing. And that kind of voice acting job, the answer is no. No, not interested at this point in my life. I have better things to do with my time. I almost turned down a voice acting job for a play. So my wife and I, Vanessa and I, we got this offer to do voiceovers for a live theater production where it was presented in English with English voiceovers, but the actors were Chinese, and this was put up on stage downtown in Shanghai. It was like a children's theater with an emphasis on like English learning or something like that, and so they had some of the play in Chinese, voiced by the live actors, and then they were voiced over or dubbed over in parts of the play by the English speaking actors. So I played the magic mirror on the wall. It was Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. So I got to get really deep and do my "You are not the fairest of them all, wicked queen," or whatever, my best Darth Vader impersonation. So yeah, that was fun. But I almost turned that one down because the description sounded kind of terrible. Another thing about that, especially if you're doing voice acting in China, everybody expects you to be able to not just speak, but sing, and not just sing, but sing really, really well. So for the Snow White thing, there were like 12 songs, and not like easy songs, like complicated songs with all these key changes and whatnot. And they were like, "Oh, well, you speak the part, so obviously you can sing this, no problem." And I took a look at this music, and I'm not musically illiterate by any stretch of the imagination. I play a bunch of instruments. I've done a lot of singing, but I took one look at this music and I was like, no, you need a professional singer for this. So, but they were like, no, no, you'll be fine. And I tried to croak out this part, and they were like, yeah, we need a professional singer for this. So it was some complicated stuff. So fortunately, I got saddled with the voice acting alone, but we wasted a lot of time in the studio trying to record this overly complicated music. So there, in the voice acting, voice recording, recorded book industry, it's not so cut and dry as have a good sounding voice that people like to hear, and then you'll instantly make it. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. Okay, so my next question is, what is your favorite Chinese food? And before you answer that, can you describe what we had for breakfast?
Okay.
Because that was awesome. Well, I thought it was awesome, but you couldn't finish it.
Yeah, I have no idea what it's called, but it's and some of my viewers are from Shanghai. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It used to be a really popular street food until the Shanghai municipal authorities started cracking down on street food and like banning people who sell street food out there. But this guy across the road opened up a shop, like a legitimate shop with a certificate or license or whatever they need, where he sells these things. It's kind of like a crepe that you make it on like a hot oil drum or something like that, and you cook it on the top, and then you crack an egg over it and spread the egg out, then put like some barbecue sauce and some chives or green onions, and like a crispy deep fried doughy thing in the middle, and then you can add extra toppings like what we ended up getting today on top of what was these spicy pickled seaweed and sliced potatoes and stuff, and they're really good. You can put hot dogs on them. You can put all kinds of different toppings on them. But the crux of it is the like pancake crepe type of thing with the egg and the chives and the sauce on it. You roll that up like a burrito, chop it in half, and it's a fantastic breakfast food that used to be available on the streets. Street food, man. But yeah, it's hard to find these made fresh in Shanghai anymore. So yeah, we've got that guy across the road. I have no idea what they're called. I keep asking people what is this called in Chinese, and they mumble something, and it's hard for me to understand. And yeah, so I have no idea what they're called.
Okay, so those were awesome. But what's your favorite Chinese food? And you took me for snake soup, like sour snake soup once.
Yeah.
And do you eat that often, or just when
I've had it a few times, and I really enjoy it's kind of like a hot and sour snake soup. So they take snake meat and they like boil it in oil until the meat comes off the bone, and so there's no bones in it. And it's delicious. If you've never had snake, it's similar in texture to frog. If you've never had frog, that's kind of like a cross between like chicken and fish, kind of a fishy chicken type of taste. And snake is similar. It's kind of like a fishy, chickeny, froggy type of meat. And yeah, that snake soup, it's amazing, absolutely amazing.
So what's your? But that's probably not your favorite. What's your favorite Chinese food?
Man, there are so many to choose from. Like I really enjoy.
And that's why this is a hard question, because usually when someone says, "Hey Ramsey, what's this?" then Ramsey will say, "Well, there's this and there's this and there's this and everything's good." But I'm not gonna let you off the hook. You need to pick one favorite Chinese food.
Ooh.
That's why this is the hard question.
Yeah, I'm tempted to throw out a few here. I mean, like.
Yeah, I've watched your videos before, and I know your tricks.
Like I love xiaolongbao. It's a Shanghainese dumpling with pork and soup in the middle. Sometimes it's made with crab meat or shrimp or something like that, but generally pork and like a pork broth on the middle. So when you bite it, it kind of like spews out and makes a big mess if you're not used to eating this. So if you eat xiaolongbao for the first time, it's yeah, you're gonna get burned probably and scalded. So proceed with caution. But at the same time, I also really like Beijing duck. It's like duck tacos. It's amazing. Like they cook up this duck so the skin is like really crispy and super tasty, and they got like these sauces and vegetables and stuff you put in these like little wraps, kind of like taco shells, but like really soft. Um, but I've had a bunch of others that I really like. Like I love like the Inner Mongolia style lamb, like the roast lamb. It is amazing, absolutely amazing. So if I had to pick out of those three, I would probably go with the one I have the least often, which is the Mongolian style lamb. Just because the law of diminishing marginal utility dictates that when you can have something all the time, we kind of get sick of it. The more we have of it, the less we appreciate it. So, if on the other hand I lived in Mongolia or in Mongolia and had that roast lamb that they make up there all the time, yeah, I'd probably think it wasn't anything special, but it's amazing.
It is amazing. You last time I was here, you took me to get it, and my
Oh
favorite
yeah,
Chinese
that's right.
my favorite Chinese food is the roast duck, and there are like five different variations of roast duck or grill. I'm not sure if it's roast duck or grilled duck, but the duck is awesome.
Yeah, that's right. There's a Mongolian restaurant right next door to where I live here, and they do have those roast lamb legs, and they're delicious. They're amazing, but they're kind of expensive to get here in Shanghai, compared to in Mongolia, where it's like dirt cheap. And a big part of the fun of eating food in a foreign country is like, wow, this is so cheap compared to my country, so this is amazing. But when you have to pay through the nose for it, it makes you think, is it really worth it? Is it really that good? But it's still good. It's still really, really good.
Okay, and then the next question is, um, how are you most like your dad?
Ooh, how am I most like my dad? That's a good question. Now we grew up with our mom. Our parents split up when we were pretty young. Um, so I definitely know my mom better than I know my dad. But let's see here. One of the big things is the blinking. So this is something a bunch of YouTube commenters have brought up, like, why do you blink so much? Stop blinking so much. Stop with the blinking. But I'm going to tell you, it's a genetic inherited condition from my father. It runs in the family. And with my dad, he has a pretty extreme case of it where when he starts talking passionately about something, he'll like his eyes start twitching and blinking in all these furious ways. And when I was about 14 years old, I found the exact same thing was happening to me. It was an involuntary muscular contraction. I was like, no, no, I don't want this. And so I would force myself to blink very slowly and like keep my eyes shut for a little bit before I open them, and that would help to to stop this involuntary blinking and face twitching and stuff. But Joseph was telling me he actually had a different method to deal with the same issue, because apparently, like I said, this runs in the family and it's affected Joseph as well.
Yeah, so I think you mentioned this. So my dad will always like blink or like wink at you. So it looks like he's flirting with everybody. Um,
Like he's giving
and
you the patty wink.
yeah, and so I noticed that too, and I know, or it happened about 5 years ago. I started blinking or winking at everyone, and kind of freaked out. So I realized that for me anyway, I always clench my jaw at night, and I think and I wear like a mouth guard to so that I don't grind my teeth. And I noticed that if I massage my jaw right here, then and it's kind of weird, but I think that like
Like
muscles
that.
muscles are yeah it was like
That
right.
actually feels really, really good right now. I'm just realizing right now how much tension there is in my jaw. Ugh.
Yeah, and so it was really hard to track down because like the muscles right here are the ones that were tense, but it was or the muscles right here are the ones that were
Whoa,
twitching.
I'm feeling the results already. Wow, that is amazing.
And yeah, sorry everyone who likes to see Ramsey blink. If he becomes not a blinker because he's just massaging his jowls too
But
much, then I guess it's my fault.
But no, that totally makes sense. How we have a symptom in one place, but the actual cause is in another place. So this happens a lot with lower back pain. A lot of people have lower back pain, and they think, "Oh no, I need to like go put some ice on my back or get a massage on the back." And more often than not, it's because of tightness in the glutes. It's your butt muscles are too tight, and so you've got to stretch and strengthen and get some massage or something like that in the glutes to address lower back pain more often than not.
Huh.
So yeah, that makes a lot of sense that this would have a direct effect on the eye muscles.
Fascinating. Okay, so um, you get your eyes from your dad is the summary answer, and then the next question, which I'm going to give you an easy question, and it's only easy because I'm going to give you the answer, is how are you most like your mom? And um, I guess my answer to that is the story you told me earlier today. So could you tell that story again?
I think I told a couple of stories.
It's
Remind me.
it's about your daughter's homework.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. So my wife is gonna get mad if she watches this. Fortunately, she doesn't watch every one of my YouTube videos, but she might watch this one because Joseph is in it.
Yeah, but we're already at like 15 minutes, so she'll probably stop watching after like 7 minutes.
Yeah, so my daughter goes to this private school here in Shanghai because you either go to you either pay for a private school or you pay for a public school. Its education is not free like it is in America, man. There's no free education in China. So it's this bilingual school, and it's got a lot of great reviews and whatnot. But they send home homework with the children with these booklets filled with jargon that makes absolutely no sense. And so I'm reading through this.
And you're talking about like terms that teachers use, like and I've been trying to think of some like just like terms that teachers use that nobody else really understands besides the teachers
Yeah, pretty
and the
much.
administrators.
It's like jargon. If you took a teaching class in college, they would use very specific language for very specific concepts when discussing pedagogy with these students, these potential teachers.
Oh, like lesson plans. Like I
Yeah,
never heard
sure.
what a like no, normal people don't talk about lesson plans. Only teachers talk about lesson plans.
Sure, but this jargon is like even way far out, much farther out there than a lesson plan. So, um, so I'm reading through this, trying to help my child with their homework, and I can't because it doesn't make any sense because it's not in standard English, it's in teacher jargon. And there's a comment section, so I have to sign off on her homework. I have to do her homework with you. There's homework for the parents, a lot of homework for the parents, probably more homework for the parents than for the children. So there's a section that says comments from the parents to the teacher or something like that. So I wrote a comment and I said, this book doesn't make sense. The jargon used is incomprehensible to me, and I I don't get it basically. So the teacher wrote back, and she wrote a fairly kind remark saying, well, this is what this means. This is what this means. This is what this means, and yeah, good luck basically. And my wife, when she read my comment to the teacher, oh man, she got mad. She got mad. She was like, how could you write this? Now this teacher is going to hate our child because of your passive-aggressive comment. So, yeah, I was on my wife's list for the last couple of days because of that. So what does that have to do with our mom?
Yeah, and that was my question to you. Why is this? Why is this the answer to how are you most like your mom?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so what happened with my mom when I was a kid? So I got bullied a lot, and I got teased a lot, and there were 7 kids in the family, and from time to time injustices would happen to my mother's children, which would make her furious, and she would shout in her wrath, "I'm going to march down to that school and give everybody there a piece of my mind." And she would do exactly that. She would march down to the school to raise hell, in her own words, raise hell. She said that a lot. I'm going down there to raise hell. And
Wait, are you quoting Jean-Luc Picard or our mother?
it kind of sounds like Jean-Luc Picard. So if you switch out my mom's voice with my voice as she's shouting passionately about what she's going to do when she goes down to the school board and yell at the teachers, it sounds like Jean-Luc Picard, basically. So, yeah, my mom would march down to the school, yell at the teachers. The teachers felt like they had no other choice but to confront the bullies and yell at them. Then the bullies would get mad at me and come back and beat me up even more. And this was a cycle. So I would go back home and cry to my mom, "The bullies beat me up again." My mom would be like, "The school will hear about this," and she would march down there again and give everybody a piece of their mind, and everybody just ended up hating me more for it. So it was a self-perpetuating cycle. So essentially what my wife was saying is, you are doing the same thing to our child that your mother did to you. Whoa.
Which is actually cool because that means that your kids are going to grow up to be MMA instructors on YouTube, which...
Yeah. Whoa, it's like that song, A Boy Named Sue. It's kind of a long song. Could you give everybody at home who's not familiar with A Boy Named Sue a recap of the narrative?
Yeah, so anyway, this guy starts out the song and he says, "Well, I never really knew my dad, and the only thing I really know about my dad is he called me Sue, and that's why I'm gonna like kill him whenever I finally meet him." And then he goes on his life.
Because Sue is a girl's name, by the way, and a boy named Sue is going to get bullied a lot.
Oh yeah. So yeah, that's why he was mad about his dad naming him Sue. And so then he finally meets his dad. He says, "Hey, well, I'm going to kill you because you named me this." And his dad said, "Whoa, stop. Fine, do whatever you want. But let me tell you why. The reason I named you Sue is I knew I wasn't going to be around, so and I wanted you to be able to be tough and survive stuff, so I gave you the name Sue because I knew that you'd get picked on and beaten up, and that you'd end up being really, really tough, and so that's why I named you Sue." So anyway, the guy makes peace with his dad, and the end of the song he names his own son Sue.
Makes sense, man. Makes sense.
So exactly like what happened.
That's like the story of my life, basically. And in a very real way it is, because when you have a weird name, when you have an unusual name, and Ramsey is an unusual name, there are less than 500 people in the United States named Ramsey. And so if you meet a person named Ramsey, and I've met 2, by the way, in the US, that's like winning the lottery. I mean, the odds of meeting a Ramsey are you're more likely to win the lottery than to meet a person named Ramsey who is an American, to be honest. So it's an unusual name. So I got teased, I got beat up a lot from my name, I got called all kinds of nicknames, and when I would get mad about it, they would start calling me Rambo. "Oh, look, Rambo's getting mad at us. Oh, he's going to pull out his machine gun and kill us all. Oh, run from Rambo." And then there was this one kid who would run up to me every day and say, "Hey kid, what's your name?" I would say, "Ramsey." And he would say, "No, it's not. It's Ramster. Ramster the hamster. Ha ha ha." So, man, it sounds funny now, but when you're like 6, this is a serious issue.
Okay, I was going to repeat that, but I don't want you to beat me up. So actually, the most common name that I ever heard you called, because people are like, "Hey, and what's your brother's name? Ramses?" And I kept saying, "No, no, no. Ramses is the guy in the Bible, and Ramsey is my brother." And
Technically,
so the weirdest thing for me is to watch like people watch people make videos about you, or like in your comments like not call you Ramses. So my next question is, when did people stop calling you Ramses, and when did people start calling you Ramsey? Like in general, like um, I don't know. I'm just guessing based on your YouTube channel that people don't call you Ramses anymore, that they call you Ramsey. But when did that happen?
oh man.
And actually, yeah, because now my friends say, "Oh yeah, your brother Ramsey." It's been like sometime in the last 20 years, people stopped calling you Ramses.
Yeah, man, when I was a kid, all throughout college, people who didn't know me or didn't know me well would call me Ramses. In fact, there were a number of people that I knew for years who would call me Ramesses, like the Egyptian pharaoh, who by the way is never mentioned by name in the Bible. The pharaoh mentioned in the Bible at the end of Genesis and the beginning of Exodus is never mentioned by name, and may not have been Ramesses.
Oh, so it's Ramesses, not Ramses.
Yeah, technically it's Ramesses. So
So everyone that was calling you
they were calling me
Ramses
Ramses, and they're
what?
pronouncing the Egyptian name incorrectly, and giving me the incorrect name. So everything's wrong in that situation there.
Wow, that's
But yeah,
a
this this
that's an awesome vat of wrongness. Is Ramses instead of Ramesses?
yeah, or just Ramsey, my actual name. So yeah, this went on throughout college. It went on after college. It went on pretty much every time I met another person who didn't know me. Now, the viewers on YouTube, I mean, my name's right there under all my videos. It's my channel name, Ramsey Dewey. So, what's interesting about the viewers, though, a lot of them will spell my name in the comments. They'll write to me and say, "Hey, Ramsey" or whatever, but they'll spell it Ramsay instead of Ramsey. And here's an interesting thing about that. So my parents apparently they had this big fight about how to spell my name, because I was named after my granddad, James Ramsey McDonald Sewell, who went by Ramsey, and his name was spelled Ramsay. But my dad felt that was silly to have a name ending with an E sound, to not have an E in it. And so he said, let's not spell it with an A, let's spell it with an E. So he wrote that on the birth certificate. My mom got mad, my granddad got mad. So every time I had a conversation with my granddad on the phone, because he would call like every Christmas or New Year's or so to talk to us. Never met him in person, because he lived in England, and we lived in the U.S. So he would call on the phone, and I didn't understand most of what he said, because he had this very strong Geordie dialect and accent from North England, and most of the conversation went like this. I'd be like, "What? Huh?" And then he would yell at my mom like, "Why didn't you teach your children to speak English? All they can say is what and But one thing I remember him saying all the time was that I needed to change the spelling of my name, because he would say, "Your name's spelled wrong. It should be spelled Ramsay and not Ramsey." And and he was really, really passionate about that. So it's fascinating that so many of my viewers spell my name Ramsay. So I don't correct them, because that was the original intention of my mother to name me after her father. So either way, I don't care. But Ramesses, that's yeah, I think I never thought about it until you pointed out that YouTube has probably nipped that in the bud. However, there's probably some guy out there who hates my guts, who is going to start writing comments saying, "Ha ha ha, Ramesses, ha ha ha, you suck, ha ha ha."
Actually, I think the thing that the people called you when you were 6 that I'm afraid to say is probably more likely.
Wait, what was that?
I, I'm afraid. Like, you're like a zen like calm, but I'm afraid of you punching me. So you just have to go. It's okay. It rhymes with jamster the dampster.
I think we already covered that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Next hard question.
Okay. So one of my biggest complaints about I don't know if it's a complaint. I should if or no, it's not a complaint. Like if I had a YouTube channel that was as popular as yours, then what I would be doing is promoting some of my awesome movies from earlier in my life. But I noticed that you like rarely promote your movies like Ninja Man or what's the name of that movie with that awesome old actor that beat up the
Among the Lucky.
yeah
Starring,
among the lucky and you made not just those two movies
yeah, I used
but
to
you
make
made
a bunch of short films that I would put up on YouTube 13 years ago.
so I think you've made like 30
And they're still up there.
like 20 to 30 movies or short movies. So my question is, what is the best, or what's the best movie, or the most interesting movie? Like, what's the movie that you like the most of all the movies that you've made?
Out of all the ones I've made, I would say probably The Rest of the World Doesn't Matter, but I never uploaded that one to YouTube.
And then what's the premise of The Rest of the World Doesn't Matter, and why is that your favorite?
Probably because of the performance of Mike Thielen, who was my roommate at the time, who played the main character and one of the only characters in the film. Because the premise, it was inspired by the movie Langoliers, or the book Langoliers, by Stephen King, and also by Home Alone. So the premise is...
Wait, it was in Home Alone inspired you?
Yes, you know how Home Alone, Kevin McAllister wakes up at home and he's like, I'm all alone, my family has disappeared. And in the movie Langoliers, this group of people, they're on a plane and they realize that everybody else in the world except for them has disappeared because of these supernatural forces intervening. So in The Rest of the World Doesn't Matter, my roommate Mike wakes up in his apartment at college, but everybody in the world has disappeared. There's nobody on the phone. There's nobody on campus. Nobody is around, and eventually he starts like breaking down mentally, and having conversations with this Optimus Prime Transformer toy that he had in his collection, and it starts talking back to him. And so this goes on for some time. I don't remember how it ends, but I really enjoyed making that one and filming it, and I liked the result. And visually, it was one of my better films, I thought.
Cool. So hopefully it will be available on YouTube soon.
Yeah, I don't actually have a copy of it. So,
Oh no.
So Mike Thielen or anyone else who has a copy of that film, The Rest of the World Doesn't Matter, let me know. But since you bring that up, a lot of people don't know that my YouTube channel is over 13 years old, because a lot of YouTube channels are pretty recent, and it took me 13 years to get past the 100,000 subscriber mark on my channel. And so a lot of my subscribers who've come in more recently, they have no idea I have all this old content that has absolutely nothing to do with fighting or martial arts or any of that stuff, like modern dance performances and short films and me playing the guitar and all of this stuff. But recently, I re-uploaded an old technique video, and a lot of people watched it because I have a lot more subscribers now. But nobody watched this back in the day. Maybe a couple hundred people looked at it, and I got this really strange comment from this guy who said, "Oh, this new format you're following is terrible. I hate how you're changing to try to keep up with the times to appeal to younger viewers." I was like, "Oh man, this is a video from 3 years ago. All I did was re-upload it." So, apparently he hated the old style, but yeah, that was fascinating to me.
Wow, interesting. Okay, what is the hardest question that anyone's ever asked you? And I realized someone asked me that, and I realized that's actually a really, really hard question.
Man, the hardest question
So
somebody has asked me.
that's my answer. The hardest question anyone's ever asked me is, "What's the hardest question anyone's ever asked you?" So anyway, you're and you can't pick the same answer as me.
Yeah, so when we started this video, you went on at length about how I probably do a lot of research and stuff before I answer these questions, and honestly, I don't. So I'm speaking from whatever knowledge I have when I make these videos. It my whole goal at making YouTube videos in the first place was to become better at speaking and communicating, as opposed to rehearsing something scripted. So, um, instead of researching something or thinking deeply about it, my idea is always to give a candid reaction, because that's how a conversation really takes place on the streets, if you will. It's spontaneous, and I wanted to get better at being spontaneous, because I would always be jealous of people, envious of people who would be able to answer a question on the fly like that, or just have a conversation and look somebody in the eye and just talk to them like a normal human being, because I couldn't do that when I was younger. So I make it a point to not research these things, and to not speak from any other place than a place of spontaneity and genuineness. So because of that, I do get a number of questions that I don't know anything about. Like, a lot of times people ask me, "Hey Ramsey, what do you think of this obscure martial art that you've never heard of or seen or know anything about?" And sometimes I'll look them up on YouTube because I'm genuinely curious. Like, let's see what this looks like. And I've made a couple of reaction videos of me watching how these guys train or spar. But for the most part, if you ask me, like, what do you think of XYZ, Jitsu, Kung Fu, whatever, the honest answer is I don't know. I have no idea. But as far as questions that I have answered, the one I've had the hardest time communicating, there was a video I made titled, what was it titled? Something about, should I follow my dreams, or like follow or get a practical job? That's not the actual title, but that's the premise of it. The guy said, he sent in this question saying, I feel obligated to get a really practical job that pays well, but I know I'm not going to be happy doing that. Instead, I want to do this thing with my life. And it wasn't even about martial arts. It was just like, I want to do this. I want to follow my passion. And I don't think I'm ever going to be wealthy or well off. And I'm probably going to struggle financially doing this. But I feel really strongly this is what I want to do with my life. And so I made this video talking about my personal experience with that path, and actually a bunch of advice that my brother Joseph gave me in regards to that. Yeah, Joseph, you've inspired me, man. And I came really close to breaking down and crying a bunch of times making that video, because it was a really emotional experience talking about that stuff. So, the hardest to talk about in a fluid manner without, without breaking down and without just having to stop. That one for sure. But as far as, just a question that stumped me, if you will, hard is, it's one of those words that has multiple meanings. So I guess before I answer this question, I probably should have asked, what do you mean by hard?
Difficult.
Difficult. Difficult is one of those words.
Okay. Anyway, so I was watching. What's that guy that asks all the questions? His name starts with an L, or Larry King. So in situations like this where the
Okay.
interviewee gets kind of emotional, he asks a question like, "What's your favorite color?" Or actually, like rapid fire is like three easy questions. So, what's your
Yeah,
favorite color, Ramsey?
red.
And where did you grow up?
New Plymouth, Idaho.
And what part of England is your mom from?
She's from County Durham.
Okay. Now to my
Oh no.
heart. Now
Now
to,
everybody knows how to crack into all my passwords online. No!
oh my gosh! I just realized my passwords are all County Durham too. Um, okay. So okay. I'm saving my hardest question for last, but this is my second to the hardest question. It seems like whenever you make a Bruce Lee video, you always talk about how Bruce Lee would lose against like the Rock, or like some like. But
I haven't made that one, but man, we could talk about that. The
oh,
Rock versus Bruce Lee.
okay,
Wow.
so or like someone big and giant versus Bruce Lee, and so I wanted to ask a more like fair fight. So who would win in a fight? Bruce Lee in his prime or William Shatner in his prime?
Ooh.
And why?
Oh wow. Now, here's something not a lot of people know. Now, people know William Shatner had stuntmen to stand in for his fight scenes a lot of the times. I mean, that double-fisted hammer blow to the back and the Captain Kirk judo throw. A lot of those were Shatner, but sometimes it wasn't. And you could tell right away because William Shatner's stunt double had gray hair, and so he wore a toupee. And in several of the episodes, you can see the gray hair poking out from under the toupee that this actor wore, or the stunt double wore. Now, Bruce Lee, a lot of people think he did all his own stunts, and that's not actually true. He had a stuntman, and it's most noticeable in the movie Enter the Dragon. So anytime Bruce Lee is doing any acrobatic move, like a flip, there's a few gymnastics movements he does, where he like jumps over this stick and this pole. After the initial fight, where he's supposed to be at the Shaolin Temple and he's fighting in a Speedo with the weird looking gloves on. And yeah, that's his stunt double standing in. And then later, when they go to the island and have the tournament, there's another flippy thing he does, like that. It's almost like a Street Fighter move, or maybe it's like the flash kick that Guile does in Street Fighter 2. That was the stuntman, same stuntman as well. So, essentially, we have two actors who have done a lot of fight scenes, and which begs the question: who has done more fight scenes, Bruce Lee or William Shatner? Now, the Bruce Lee fans would chime in, well, Bruce Lee, of course, but he only made a couple of movies. Bruce Lee only made a handful of movies. I mean, there was Game of Death, which never got completed, by the way. I mean, Bruce himself only filmed like 30 minutes of footage for that one. But that was like almost all fight scenes from start to finish. There was Enter the Dragon. There was Return of the Dragon, the one with Chuck Norris. There was the Chinese Connection, which has an alternate name, and then there was The Big Boss. So Bruce Lee made 5 martial arts movies. Now, he made a ton of movies when he was younger. When he was a kid, he was a child actor. Like he did a Chinese language version, a Cantonese language version of Great Expectations, where he played the character of Pip, or the Chinese version of Pip, if you will. But hold on, I'm getting off track. But we're going back there. We're going back. So again, Bruce only had 5 action movies where he's on film doing fight scenes. But then there was The Green Hornet, where he played Kato, and there were a bunch of fight scenes in that. But how much screen time doing the fight scenes? His were over pretty quick, because Bruce Lee liked to showcase an efficient use of martial arts, like stop the fight as quick as you can. Whereas William Shatner's fight scenes were drawn out. They were longer, and they were dramatic, and they were filled with these awesome moves like the axe handle, jumping drop kick, and all this stuff. So, and they went on and on and on. Like, you know, the Star Trek fight music, the dun 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 dun. Oh man, are they going to demonetize this because I just sung that? Because YouTube, I mean, they have a rule about covering songs. The copyright claims on music include cover songs. Like, you uploaded a video recently of a guy in Thailand at like a club